Welcome back, everybody, to the Pro Wrestling Experience on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. I'm Josh Lopez alongside Joseph Moore. Now, this is our second straight week that we're going through our WrestleMania history retrospective. We're going through WrestleMania 7 through 13 for today. But before we get to that, time to bring in our first guest of the day. We got a former professional wrestling referee from WWE for 20 years, host with the Score Network with Art O'Cal and Renee Young before she came to WWE, and now with the Fight Network. Jimmy Korderas, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
We're doing okay. Kind of inconsistent weather with here in Chicago, just like TNA, but we can do better.
Same thing up here in Toronto, my friend. I mean, I'm taking a snow day today. Let's put it that way.
Oh boy! Wow. So, how's things been for you since being out of the mainstream wise for wrestling? I know you've been endeavored in the broadcasting field with, of course, with the Score and then the Fight Network. How's that transition moving out of the mainstream wrestling world to broadcasting?
It's a completely different world. It's it's one of those things that I thought about. I mean, you always have to have a backup plan, and wrestling is a great, especially being part of the WWE for so many years was fantastic. But you know what? Nothing lasts forever, and eventually you have to move on to something. Mm-hmm. And I always thought about broadcasting as a career, but a lot of people out there, and you can attest to this, they think, wow, you know what? That's easy. You just go out there and you talk. No, it's not that easy. It's something you got to learn to do. You know what I mean? So, I took a course in broadcasting after I left WWE, and you mentioned Art O'Cal. He was a big help in getting me started at the Score Television Network and Score Radio up here, and I got to do it started off as Right After Wrestling and then morphed into Aftermath with him and now the former Renee Paquette, who is now Renee Young in the WWE, mm-hmm. who's doing fantastic, by the way. I love her work over there. She's like a perfect fit for them. And, like you said, now still doing stuff with the Fight Network, and the Score Television Network has now become Sportsnet 360 up here, and we still have our Aftermath show on there. It's been great. I love it. I love talking wrestling because I love wrestling.
Mm-hmm. You can't go wrong with that. no matter how long you're a fan you are.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I just started to work for Between the Ropes with Brian Fritz, which for a while. How you think like the whole new wave of broadcasting from the internet side has helped the wrestling business? I know we got the Pro Wrestling Report in Milwaukee. We got whole Justin LeBar and Josh Eisenberg with Share Shot Reality in Pittsburgh. Of course, you guys out in Toronto. I'm trying to build my brand here. Hopefully I get up there soon with Brian with Between the Ropes. And I think that's been helping out the business from a viewing experience instead of being in it.
I think obviously it can be a big help. I mean, you mentioned guys like Dave Hero and Damian and Josh and Justin, who I know all of them, and they're good guys and they're smart guys. They understand. They're not only fans, but they understand the business aspect of professional wrestling, especially today's wrestling, which has changed over the years. Mm-hmm. And I do still consider myself an old school kind of guy, but at the same time, like with any other sports or entertainment entity, wrestling has evolved, and so must the fan, and a lot of the fans, for lack of a better term, are kind of stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Like the biggest complaint I keep hearing is, "Oh, I wish the Attitude Era would come back." You know what? That genie's back in the bottle. It ain't coming back out, at least for the foreseeable future. So, these guys are very good at helping. Translate what's going on in the world of professional wrestling today, whether, you want your little backstage tidbits on what's going on or just, an analysis. What we do is an analysis. We break down the show. We talk about what we liked and what we didn't like, but we don't, kind of like the Talking Dead.
Yes.
Kind of like a Talking Dead kind of thing. So we're not like going after, creative did this and that sort of stuff. We just break down the show. Did we like it? Did we not like it? What was it that we liked? What was it that we didn't? And that's pretty much what I like about what's going on now.
speaking of developing over time, we talk about that a lot here in the Pro Wrestling Experience. Just talking about how we adapt through time and doing research about wrestling. I mean, I started watching when I was 3. That was around 1997, right? And been a fan ever since. And then I've done my research over the years from the 80s and then the whole AWA and NWA and stuff. But at the same time, looking back in those stuff and then ECW and WCW, I'm still a fan of what we watch today, and like you said, we gotta adapt with the times. And kind of interesting that we're doing this WrestleMania retrospective thing on the show, and you kind of have a part of the past 3 generations of WrestleMania. When did you start? Like around the mid '80s?
Yeah, well, a little later, I started working for Jack Tunney, former president up here in Toronto in '85, and started refereeing. I believe it was February of '87, where when I refereed my first match. I want to say started refereeing, but when I refereed my first match, greener than goose, you know what. But you learn, and you adapt. And I was fortunate enough to be a part. And that was the Hulk Hogan era, the Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper era, which man, it was amazing. And then watching it evolve into the next generation with the guys like Sean and Brett, and then the Attitude Era that we already just touched on earlier, and then going through the transition period into edgier stuff. Let's just say that, and then the emergence of guys like John Cena and Randy Orton. I've been blessed, man. I got to see, like you said, 3 or 4 generations of wrestling come and go. Well, come and stay, actually. Now with the network, I mean, geez, it's all there.
I know. It's like, yeah, it's definitely a wrestling fan's dream. It's probably the best wrestling Christmas gift you could get. Well, we do kind of relate wrestling, WrestleMania time as Christmas time for wrestling fans. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. So, I've always wondered this when it comes to refereeing a wrestling match. I know it's more than just going through the 1, 2, 3 and then trying to keep control of the match. What other roles do referees have when it comes to being part of a particular match or just the overall day in a WWE show?
Well, a lot of referees, most of the referees wear many hats, whether it's being part of the ring crew, helping with the production crew, helping out with talent relations in some regard. But everybody has a different role. As far as in a match goes, like you said, it's more than just counting 1, 2, 3. You're there to help tell a story, basically. And the talent in the ring, the 2 guys or 4 guys or however many wrestlers are in the ring, you're in there to help tell their story without being a distraction. And within that, not being a distraction, you're also there to help communicate, whether it's like TV or pay-per-view, to communicate times or whatnot. But it's like I said, you're there to help tell a story without being a distraction, because it's the guys in the ring who are basically the guys who are drawing the money. So you don't want to. I always say this: I've never seen a referee draw any money.
Yeah.
And I know nobody bought a ticket to see me except maybe a family member, but other than that, so it's complicated. It's not rocket science, but at the same time, it's not as easy as people think it is. Anyway,
Joseph, you have any questions?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? My name is Joseph.
Good. How are you?
Good. You see, I'm a big wrestling fan. I want to know, what's the biggest match that you ever did, as you were in WWE?
Oh, man. You're talking WrestleMania season, WrestleMania 24. Being a part of that main event between The Undertaker and Edge, and it doesn't get any bigger than that. I mean, even for referees, WrestleMania is the event you want to be a part of, be it booked on. Just being a part of WrestleMania is fantastic, but to actually stand between 2 legends like The Undertaker and Edge in front of over 70,000 people there in Orlando. I mean, you talk about goosebumps.
Right.
That's an understatement. And for me, that was that's a highlight for me. The highlight of my career.
Wow. Do you know Edge personally?
Yeah, Edge is he's a Canadian guy. Us Canadian guys kind of we kind of gravitate towards each other. It's a weird little thing. We had our own little kind of quirky humor and that sort of stuff, and we all got along really well.
Nice.
Got the whole clique. You got Christian, Chris Jericho, the Hearts.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about quirky humor? Talk to those two guys.
So, how are you enjoying today's product? Like overall, I mean, from at least like the storylines and the matches from what the roster we have right now.
I think when you're talking WWE, I'm enjoying the build to WrestleMania. Now, I've been accused on Twitter and so forth of being being a WWE apologist because I'm enjoying the ride right now. The whole Daniel Bryan thing, I understand that people want to see Daniel Bryan, or at least the trigger be pulled with Daniel Bryan. But you look back at it, and since even before SummerSlam, up until now, who has been the guy who's been pushed the most and given the most attention to on WWE television and pay-per-view over the last more than half a year? Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
The guy's in the top story every week, pretty much. And and I get the fact that people want to see him as champion, but let the story play out. I mean, I know that maybe the thought process changed going into WrestleMania, but it was going to happen eventually. And I was kind of thinking that it was going to be a year-long thing where it went from SummerSlam to SummerSlam. Like the year-long build where from SummerSlam to SummerSlam, that's when he finally achieves his goal. But with certain situations, with certain other individuals who happen to not be there right now, I think that process got sped up, and hopefully we have that moment at WrestleMania. Wow. But overall, I'm enjoying the product. I try to enjoy all wrestling. I don't just watch WWE. I do watch TNA. I do watch ROH. And again, there's some stuff I like and some stuff I don't like. It's and even with the WWE, there's certain things I watch and I go, oh man, but it's all opinion. You know what I mean? Everybody's got their own taste, and I respect that. It's just that I hate getting blasted for an opinion. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's no right and wrong in wrestling. I mean, like you said, everybody has their own taste. I just think with today's society, not just with wrestling, I think overall everybody is leaning for how things were back in the day and can't involve with what's going on today. And then everything that goes on today is the worst thing ever. Know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to the Daniel Bryan and Triple H storyline, Daniel Bryan got all the momentum in the world for Raw last Monday, and then who knows, next week Triple H gets his revenge, the back and forth story between both the guys, and then, Triple H pedigrees Daniel Bryan, and then everybody's like, oh, Daniel Bryan's buried. I mean, everybody says they know what's going on with wrestling, but they don't know their research when it comes to stories these days.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too, and also it's how the crowd is kind of manipulated. I can't even get that word out. Up here is getting to my brain. This whole hijack Raw movement and all that stuff. I look at it this way. Let's say, for example, I'm a fan of Van Halen. But I like Van Halen with David Lee Roth, not with Sammy Hagar.
Okay.
So I know that I'm going to go see that Van Halen's coming to town with Sammy Hagar, but I prefer them with David Lee Roth. But I'm going to go buy a ticket anyways, just so I can go there and boo them because David Lee Roth's not there.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Doesn't.
Does that make sense? To me, that doesn't make sense. Excuse me. If I'm buying a ticket to go to an event, I want to go get entertained. I want to go enjoy myself. I'm not going to go there just to... It's like going to a comedy club saying, I'm going to sit front row and heckle everybody.
Sure.
Wow.
Go. Why don't you go and try and enjoy the show? That's the part I don't understand. And when I try to explain that to people, they say, well, they have a right
Yeah,
say whatever they want. And yes, to a certain point, but when you're disrupting someone else's ability to enjoy the show, then where do you draw the line? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right. We do have to go to commercial break. We'll be right back with part 2 of our conversation with Jimmy. Talk more WrestleMania stuff and kind of more historical questions. We'll have your guys' questions as well for Jimmy. We'll be right back with this Pro Wrestling Experience, which is live on. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Start off some music with one of my favorite bands in the world. Back here at Pro Wrestling Experience, ChicagolandSportsRadio.com, every Wednesday, 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. The only wrestling show these days where they don't complain for 3 hours. But still on the air with us, our special guest today, Jimmy Korderas. You can follow Jimmy at Jimmy Korderas. Is that right?
Yep, that works for me.
So, picking back a little bit more of our current product conversation here on the show. Monday, we had Occupy Raw. I thought the show was good overall. I thought the show flowed with each segment having to do with WrestleMania. Usually, when it comes to pay-per-views, well, besides the main ones, SummerSlam and WrestleMania, usually these days you don't see a lot of build for each particular match or storyline for each show, but I thought this one executed us. The match with the Shield and Cody Rhodes and Goldust, I thought was a strong point throughout the show. The segment between Paul Heyman and Undertaker was fantastic. Paul Heyman can sell a feud between a ice cream and a cookie. I mean, people still buy it. But Jimmy, what was your thoughts on Raw this past Monday night?
I enjoyed it. Obviously, the week before in Chicago was tough to top, and I don't think they topped it this week. But they did a good job of, like you said, promoting WrestleMania, and that's the main objective, what you're trying to do with television, especially going into your, number one pay-per-view of the year. I thought, like you said, Heyman is just remarkable on the mic. He could. What's the old adage? He could sell ice to an Eskimo. Is that how the old saying goes?
Something like that.
Yeah, the guy is unbelievable. And if that was, if anybody takes, offense to that remark, I didn't mean it anyway. That's an old saying. You know what I mean? I'm an old guy. What can I say? I like the build for Taker and Brock so far. I mean, it's very simple, very subtle, but getting the points across. Obviously, the Daniel Bryan thing. I like the fact that they're factoring in that he may have to wrestle twice on WrestleMania in order to achieve his goal of becoming WWE Champion, which, if you think back a couple of weeks ago, the seeds were planted when he had to wrestle twice on Raw, twice on SmackDown in the same week. Mm. So kind of that seed was planted back then. I thought it was a nice little touch to add this. And Cena, Bray Wyatt, I think, has the potential to be a big match and a big breakout moment for Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Talk about guys on the mic that are just unbelievable. This guy, I don't know how to describe it. It's just phenomenal because when you watch him and you listen to him, you think to yourself something. The suspension of disbelief, as they say.
Yeah.
I mean, you believe that this guy's deranged. That's how good he is. Mm-hmm. So WrestleMania is shaping up. I mean, I know it's a little bit later than usual for getting all these matches together and the Battle Royal, of course, but the build-up has been really good, especially coming off of Monday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really, really intrigued with the Bray Wyatt and John Cena match. Not only just because it's different, but kind of cool how Raw started off. You got Hogan announcing the Battle Royal, which I'm looking forward to. Kind of cool moment seeing Hawk and Cena in the ring at the same time. The guy that started it all now to the current guy. And then you got Bray Wyatt, kind of the future. I don't know if Bray Wyatt's going to be like the next John Cena or that main guy, but I love the promo. I kind of felt iffy, like John Cena trying to downplay Bray Wyatt's role, but that's usually what you get with John Cena. We kind of know how he approaches his other feuds with other guys these days. But so I didn't really have that much problem with that. But this whole storytelling from Bray Wyatt and the fact that he writes his own promos is awesome. the Usos, like I said, fortunate to be at the Raw the week prior in Chicago, seeing them beat the Outlaws for the tag team championships. Do you think this is gonna be a straight up one-on-one match, or you think there's gonna be like a four-way match or a tag team turmoil?
I'd like to see it as just a straight up tag team match, but and I think there's a chance that it might happen now that the Battle Royal is happening. With 30 men in the Battle Royal, you'll probably see guys. I think Ryback is in it. I think Curtis Axel, I think, has been announced for it. I'm not sure, but the teams that aren't, vying for the title could actually fit into the Battle Royal. I'd rather see that and make that match mean something as opposed to, trying to squeeze in. No offense, but Los Matadors or somebody like that. And the Outlaws, for one last kick at the can at WrestleMania, they deserve it. Why not?
Yeah, why not? It would be kind of funny, since we didn't get the whole Bad News Bear thing when it came out to Chicago. He's like, I got some bad news. CM Punk's not going to be here. Said that he wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. That's my early pick, but that's just me. Josie, you had some more questions?
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, what do you think of the CM Punk situation?
See, that's obviously a question that a lot of people have been asking, and I've been asked it a lot. And to be honest with you, I don't know the situation. I don't know what caused Punk to go home, and I don't know what the discussions were. Mm-hmm. So for me to take sides and say, well, it's the WWE's fault or it's Punk's fault, the only person who can answer that are the two guys or three guys or however many guys were in the room when the discussion took place.
Okay.
Is Punk upset? Obviously. Is he burnt out? Is he sore? Is he tired? Of course. Did he do the right thing? Again, that's a matter of opinion. Maybe it could have been handled a little differently, because if you think back to 2002, had a similar situation with Steve Austin. Yeah. And Steve, from that day on, and to this day, I always said that he didn't handle that the best way he could. Now, am I saying the same thing for Punk? Not necessarily, but then again, it's a tough call. It's a tough call because you don't know what's going through that young man's mind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So to choose sides, I don't think is fair. Do I hope he comes back? Absolutely, because I think the guy is one of the, if not the most talented overall performer they got right now. But he's got to come to peace with his own, whatever's going on in his head,
Okay, and I got...
Hold on, Joseph. We had some time to have some fan questions, so I'll get to those really quick before we have to let Jimmy go for today. But Travis wanted to know what was your favorite WrestleMania that you're a part of, as far as being the referee for one of the WrestleManias, and then the second question: what was your thoughts on this year's Hall of Fame class? Is it really up there with last year's class or the 2007 Hall of Fame class?
Stellar class for this year, obviously. Big surprise with the Warrior. I didn't expect that, but like they say never. When they say best for business, that really is the truth. Whatever's best for business, and Warrior deserves his slot there. That's for sure. I already talked about my favorite WrestleMania match was obviously WrestleMania 24, Edge and Taker.
All right, so I think personally my favorite WrestleMania was 22, not just because it was in Chicago, but I think when you look back at wrestling history, kind of like John Cena and Triple H is like your standard classic wrestling match. In my opinion, that's my favorite match, so entitled opinion. But then you get the old school brawls like Edge and Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels and Mr. McMahon. And then, of course, the Money in the Bank ladder match. How those matches different from the single match? I was always interested how the referees' roles are like in Money in the Bank matches or steel cage matches.
How the referees do what? Sorry.
What are their roles when it comes to like steel cages or Money in the Bank ladder matches? I always was interested in those.
Biggest role for referee, especially in something like the Money in the Bank or comparatively like a TLC match or something like that, is safety of the guys in the ring. Just to make sure especially after a big crazy spot, make sure that they're okay and and can continue, especially in today's WWE environment. If somebody is injured, they're discouraged from continuing, and will, in fact, if they feel the need, will stop. Maybe not the match if there's like 6 guys in a Money in a Bank match, but remove whoever's hurt from the match. So the biggest thing is, again, relaying times and making sure that everybody's pretty much okay, as okay as they can be in crazy matches like that.
All right. I want to thank you really much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you. This is really compelling. One of my favorite conversations I've had so far on the show. Can you give the fans information where they can find you throughout the the WrestleMania season, or like your booking information, or the score and Fight Network or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously on Twitter at Jimmy Korderas, all one word. I'm also on Facebook, but actually more on Twitter than Facebook. I check my Facebook periodically. And if anybody's listening up in Canada, we're on Sportsnet 360 Friday nights at 10 p.m. for Aftermath TV, and we'll be having we're actually going to be expanding the program in the coming weeks, and we may be having a little bit of online content, but when that comes out, I'll announce that on my Twitter and Facebook and let everybody know.
All right, Jimmy. Really, thank you. This is an honor. I hope to get to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Oh, absolutely. It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.